We are talking prospects on this episode of Dingers, including players performing, players that could be on the move, and the organizations that are going to do a shakeup. It's time for Dingers!
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just brain and jury that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out, we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Childs, joined again, as always, by Robbie Baseball from the murder room. Robbie, what is happening, my friend?
Well, it's like a murder room slash snake den now. As I told you earlier, there is a snake that is 100% living in this basement.
So let me get this straight. It's basically like a Samuel L. Jackson montage of snakes on a plane mixed with Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, and if we had like we have a sub pump, but if that was actually like a well in the middle of the basement, we could also fit some Silence of the Lambs into it. Just really bring around all the things. Yep. It's cold and damp down here. It's finally warm outside. So I think tomorrow I'm going to have to open all the windows. Maybe the snake will leave. More likely it'll just call some of its friends in. I don't know how the snakes do that, but I'm concerned.
The only issue is though, like the difference with what you have going on in the Silence of the Lambs is like, it's not going to put the lotions on the skin. It's just going to leave skin in the middle of your basement.
Oh, that's what I fear the most, Ty, is if I see a snake skin that's larger than I'm comfortable with, I think I'm just going to move out. I'm going to have to go buy a camper from the late 70s and just park it in the yard. And then that's where I'm going to live for the summer.
So we had in college, we had a little ball python in our house. And so part of the pre-drink was the snake would feast on a mouse before. Right. And so
very road trip of you.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, like,
who was your Tom Green?
We had several. We definitely had several.
Wait, what was the character's name? It wasn't Tom Green. Like Tom Green played.
It was
him,
Tom Green.
Yeah, it was
Mitch?
Tom Green. But I mean,
it was Mitch.
Yeah,
was it right. Mitch? Yeah. Anyway,
so you eat it.
Release the fury, Mitch.
That's right.
Was the line. Yeah. So
release the fury.
Yeah. So basically, what would happen at these events before we were going out to the bars is everybody would come over. The girls would be like, "Oh, cute little mouse," and then the mouse would go in with the snake, and the mouse would just
inappropriate.
Yeah. This mouse is running around like not realizing it's like running around for its life, and the python's just slowly moving around. The bam, and the whole room just cries. Ah! And it was kind of.
And then you're like shots.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how it went. Yeah, leave the man alone. He's eating the mouse. But anyways.
Well, we're talking about drinking. So before we get on topic, let's talk about drinking.
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Oh, that was pure. Pure.
Yeah, well, when you hear, oh, that one, I'm doing the double dip tonight. We originally were going to be recording last night, and I picked my now 6-year-old son up from school. And because he's read 125 nights this year, different books, I said to him, you can have your choice of getting a hammer or a saw as a reward for reading. And he picked a saw. So yesterday I picked him up from school. Choice. Well, he lost his hammer. So, but he decided when he hits 150, he's going to get the hammer. Anyway, I picked him up from school. We went to the store, picked out the hammer. He told everybody that we saw that he was getting himself this saw, and then came home and tried to cut like the hardest piece of wood that we had. And meanwhile, I'm trying to find like some, really crappy soft trim pieces that he can cut up. But anyway, he was all over it. But because I knew I had to have high energy, I had a Red Bull yesterday when I picked him up. And then when we decided last night was not the night, I said to my wife, well, I've already had the Red Bull, so I'm going to go get some Jaeger. And just had a couple ounces of Jaeger with the final bits of my Red Bull last night. It's delicious.
Yeah. You find
wish
Rob
I
in the
had
corner
more.
with some EDM, you flicking the light switch on and off.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed up till 4 a.m. But anyway, yeah. So I got the Crown Float tonight. Guinness is the top, of course. I've got Okanagan apple ciders, crisp apple. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Okanagan is out in beautiful British Columbia, where the bulk, I think, of the Little League World Series representative teams come from for Canada are out of BC. But Ty, what do you got going?
How about a Woodford? We're back onto the Woodford time. We now have a plethora of options here because I'm allowed to cross the border, so I'm starting to re-add to the collection. However, Woodford Classic, one of the favorites, so you got to continue to mix that in. Speaking of mixing in plethoras, Robbie, what do you got?
Well, I was just gonna say, before we go off topic, I took a screenshot of a video I was watching so I would remember the name. Dr. McGillicuddy's apple pie. I don't know exactly what that alcohol is, but if you mix that with Mountain Dew and ice, apparently it's an 11 out of 10 from the Dirty Club, which is some type of popular YouTube Facebook channel thing. I saw it, thought of you.
This crosses into my salad theory, right?
Cool.
Like you have salad and then you have fruit salad. You don't then put fruit on salad because there's already a fruit salad. But keep them separate, people.
Well,
right?
The fact that the combo worked and the guy was like, ooh, because it looked like he was getting ready to rip it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see this because I try to watch the bourbon stuff. I'm not up there yet. I don't like it like you do. But when I saw it, I'm like, I'm willing to try that one. I'm willing to try it. So anyway, I wrecked your segment. Please.
I mean, I didn't know I have a segment. We were just going to get into your favorite topic, so I'll lead it in for you.
Hot news. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
hot news. Okay. Today is the day in May. It is the 11th of May. So depending on when this one comes out, which I will say, we do apologize. I even got DMs about it, Ty, that someone said, I'm not sure if I'm getting the feed late or what's going on, but some of the podcasts are like backdated. We apologize. Busy people. And we're going to try to be better on release dates. But at this point in time, we are roughly 25%. We're not even 25% through the MLB season. So we're just looking very quickly to see, what are the teams that are crushing it. We've got, I think is it the Yankees that are leading? Is it the Yankees leading the division?
Yes,
it is. So we've got the Yankees at 22 wins. They're leading all of baseball. Sad.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, like, the answer to the question here in terms of who is the best team in baseball today, it is the Yankees, right? And it pains me to say it. The Dodgers are obviously in the conversation, but I think it has to be the Yankees because they've had the run. They've had a tough schedule, right? It's soft on paper, but it's been playing tough. So I think that's notable. They went on a run. And
yeah, they had I think it was a 10-game win streak, right? That the Jays stopped. Yeah.
And I think these couple of wins against the Jays are going to be huge in September. The very important wins. However, the Yankees schedule does get harder and the Jays schedule does get significantly easier. And frankly, like you've got a very soft schedule so far for the Yankees. So they should be winning this many games, right? And unfortunately for them, they're going to stack up against Boston and Tampa when those two teams are churning and running later in the year. So
presumably because Boston is real bad.
Well, they can't be worse than they are right now. Yeah.
But the run differential is the only other thing with the Yankees. They're the second best in baseball at 50 plus 52 with the Dodgers at plus 78 and the Dodgers are 20-9. So from a win percentage standpoint, it still goes to the Yankees at 22-8. But it's, I mean, those are the top teams now on the other end. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, before we move to the other end, I want to just comment really quickly. Like the one thing I want to touch on in terms of the best team still, Padres. When we talk about the Padres being 20-12 without Tatis, like I mean, how many people would have put that out there, right? Like I think that's just notable because like getting Tatis back in the lineup offensively, like they're +8 on the differential. So
Yep.
add Tatis into that record, and all of a sudden, they're better than they look already.
The entire NL West has a winning record at today's date.
Yeah.
So for everybody who's out there looking for pitchers that get wins and things like that, Arizona as a team has the lowest batting average in baseball as of tonight, 199. Pardon me, but they do have a winning record overall, and that's grinding away. That's finding a way to, get on base and so on. But one team that's not doing that is Cincinnati. They have, I'm sure, the worst run differential at -72 they do by a long shot. -72, 7 wins, but KC and Detroit, so sad. Both those teams, 9 wins each. KC 9-18, Detroit 9-21. The last 10 have been where the bottom has really fallen out for both. They're both 2-8, whereas Cincinnati has actually improved and been 4-6. Like they were 3-18 and just pitiful. And that's when Joey Votto went out. A lot of guys have been in and out of that lineup regularly. It has been shameful. And this is just something for the guys out there playing in your leagues, especially if you are in weekly head-to-head and you're like 0-3, 0-4, something like that. Do not give up. Now is not the time to give up. That is nothing. That is 1 month of baseball. By the time late June rolls around, you can be above 500. Just keep listening. We're going to help you. We're going to help you get there.
Well, and one thing like with Detroit, like I think this is an important thing just on the prospect watch side. Like I think everybody was like, oh, Torkelson's going to be fantastic. Like Torkelson's a good baseball player. He just wasn't ready. The Tigers forced that one. I think that was a huge mistake on their part. And I think they just lost the season of Torkelson because now he's going to go have to retool and come back up. And he's shown moments of what he can be, no questions. But like that's what young guys that aren't ready do. Like look at Joe Adell, same conversation, right? Joe Adell is so close, but not quite all the way there, right? And that's I think Torkelson's in the same spot, just with no competition for his position. That's the only difference.
Well, and I mean, the talk was that Green was going to come up too, and then he got hurt. And, but it was going to be okay. They traded for Meadows. They've got Jonathan Scope, who's just like slow start, but he's been turning it on lately. Miggy was like the only positive thing for Detroit in the month of April and into May was, he got 3,000 hit. He has 3,000th hit. And he's been slapping the ball around. But slow starts from those teams. And then KC, we already know the story because I've talked about it at length. It's the damn pitching. And Bubik was allegedly pulled from the starting duties, and I believe he's starting tonight, which does not help because sometimes when you need the guy to retool, you actually need him to leave the team, go to AAA if you want him to keep starting. And it wouldn't be a bad thing if they just said, okay, we're gonna get him out of the rotation and just let him go to the bullpen if they think he's a major leaguer. But he's been getting hit right away. Every first inning for him is horrible. So I don't see what putting him in the bullpen is going to do. It's obviously approach. Like they see every pitch. So whether he's coming in to start the game or he's coming in the 6th, they're still going to be able to hit him early and often. So I don't know why he doesn't go back to retool. But again, I want good things for him because I think he's got the skill set. But if he is in fact starting tonight, which I haven't checked, then I'm confused at what Casey's genuinely doing, what their outcomes are. But again, we talked about Casey on one episode and how terrible they were with the lineup. And since then they've lost Mondesi and like things have gotten worse in Casey, unfortunately, but we can talk about good things.
Casey's playing for the draft. And just a real quick note on Detroit. They were 8-20 this time last year, right? Exactly. May 1, they were 8-20. I'll fast forward a couple days.
We had the delayed start and all those things, right?
Yep.
So we're about the same for games.
Yes. So we're 11-24 as of today. So we're a couple extra games last year, but same position for Detroit, right? And then they got hot. We've talked about Candelario being a slow starter. You talked about Scope starter. So there's still future there. Like Mize will be back, Manning will be back. This team could still win some games down the stretch. So just something, as a fantasy player, like go get Candelario, go add Scope as a bench bat. Like these are guys that you should be targeting, knowing the past history of success with those guys. So just
Rod Grossman sucked the first 2 weeks. Now he's back doing what he was doing in 2021. Victor Reyes, whatever. We could talk about that on a different episode. Up to the next one here. Taylor Ward, Ty. Holy hell. the 4th ranked player in 8x8. So that's adding in OPS, walks, like baseball stats, and the number of times he strikes out, which is not many. 21 for this year to 19 walks for him. The guy's batting 364 and 1165 OPS. And this is not what Taylor Ward does. Just so everyone's aware, last year he was pretty much a bang on league average player, 250 average, 770 OPS. What did he have though? 208 at bats. That's the difference, is that he's never been, not never, but he is not this guy. But my goodness, is he ever helping the Angels? Because a guy like David Fletcher, who's now going to be missing a couple of months, it's like an automatic like bump up. Like David Fletcher is supposed to be a soft contact guy and high average, and Taylor Ward's now getting that done with the Angels. They just need to continue. They need to not have those like horrendous injuries and things like that. But he's been a good news guy. Just
well,
like
thing,
yeah.
Well, sorry, before you jump off of him, real quick, I'm just pulling up the numbers here. He's 6 for 26 in May, right? Taylor Ward. Just something to keep in mind. Like he's hitting 231 since the calendar turned over. He's got 1 home run, and the OPS has fallen a bit. He's got 1 home run and 1 double in those 26 at bats. So we're not in panic territory yet, but I do think there's a reality check here that we need to talk about. And we're going to talk about some of these other guys later that fit that category. And we're definitely talking about next week's episode in terms of some redraft stuff. But, I just think something that people need to pay attention to, ultimately there is room for regression with Taylor Ward. And I don't think enough people are talking about that yet. And that's just something I think is worthy of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, he's like money in hand, right? At this moment in time.
Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make, Robbie, is like, is this sell high time? And for me, I like selling these guys. Especially if I'm in win now mode, like do not wait for Taylor Ward. Sell him now, right? Because you can turn him into gold right now if you want to.
Yeah, and we did talk about in a previous episode, what happens sometimes when a guy starts hot is that the line for the year looks good weeks after they have peaked. So to your suggestion, Ty, if you think the time is now or is past even, because, like you said, the last 10, 11 days, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, then do it. Go get your value right now. Somebody has an injury somewhere that a guy like Taylor Ward can help. Now, JP Crawford is a similar case, but I think there's a better argument to be made for JP Crawford just being a good baseball player. He is 34th overall in 8x8. Last year, he hit 273. This year, he is off to a 327 blistering start. Of course, that is coming down. That is going to come down. Now, the last 2 weeks, it's been a 286 line. That would be great for him to continue that. And then the last week, he did dip 176 average. But JP Crawford is doing a lot of good things. And when Seattle's winning, it's because JP Crawford's doing well for them. So if he can keep going, he's helpful. The value for him, for some reason, is never very high. So don't think you can't go get him if you think he actually is going to continue to have himself a good year. And, if you're an Eugenio Suarez fan, if you can possibly combine Crawford and Suarez, that's not a bad thing because Suarez is also doing really well this year. And just like Ty said about Taylor Ward, the guy who has Crawford might think, I'll take a better prospect today when he's doing well, if I think he's going to fade down the stretch. But it's that bit of insurance. Sometimes it's a good thing to lock up, a guy like Crawford for the rest of your season early than it is to wait till the trade deadline. Because if he's continued to be good, that cost is definitely going to be like a Daniel Espino type return.
And the thing here is that like Crawford isn't like a come out of nowhere kind of guy. Like he has a very simple progression through his whole career so far. And he's a contact first guy, right? You shouldn't ever expect the 941 OPS. So if you're buying a JP Crawford for OPS, I hate to break it to you, but you, sir, are an idiot. He's not that guy. And so, but on the contact, on the runs, on those sort of things, he can give you some value. In his career, Robbie, he broke in 2017, cup of coffee, 2018, a little bit more, but 214 in both those seasons batting average. And since then, he's went 226, 255, 273, and now 327 on the season so far. So, like, there's a clear progression. Do I expect him to stay at 327? Absolutely not. But like, is 280, 290 very realistic for a guy that's clearly improving year over year? The answer is yes. Like, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a guy at a position that you might have lost a guy or still might lose a guy, right? If you're a Tatis owner, this would have been a great target 2 weeks ago. And likewise moving forward, like, he still could be a guy that fills any injury coming up. But he's not going to give you power. The 4 home runs we've seen so far are probably ahead of his pace for the year. But like 10 home runs, 15 home runs even could be in the cards this year, Robbie. That's where I'm at on him.
Yeah, just a good all-around player for you in fantasy. Points
Mhm.
per game, he's somewhere north of 3 at the moment. Like, it's all been good. Another guy, Ty, who I'm curious your thoughts on here, Christian Yelich, 55th overall right now, and 8x8, did hit for the cycle today, which is not taken into account in that 55 ranking. So he will actually be within the top 50, I'm sure, even rest of week towards the midpoint of May. But a 304 average the last 2 weeks, but for the year, a 234 average, 750 OPS, and he's doing a little bit of everything, right? 4 dingers, which today goes up, 5 dingers today. 3 stolen bases, decent RBIs, decent walk to strikeout ratio. It's 2-1 right now, which is pretty solid for him.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Yelich rest of the season? You talked about him a bit on a previous pod. What
Yep.
are you thinking now? A few weeks have passed.
Yeah, so I own him in a couple spots, and I did some homework in the off season about what he'd changed, and looked into like the realities of hurt his knee, he's coming back, hurt his back, he's coming back. Like, this is the kind of guy I like to target, Robbie, as you know. Like, I like these guys that everybody has given up on, and you just have to pay attention. Like, what did he do? What trends existed? Was he starting to make hard contact? Where was he? So you got to watch a little bit of video to find some of this stuff. But the spring, everybody that was close to it, if you followed the buzz and in the, let's call it, Twitter internet world, everybody was expecting Yelich to bounce back, and so I bought him in a couple spots. I'm happy that I did. I think we could see all-star rebirth here, and I'm gonna say, like, there as a flyer, like, this is a guy I would love to have 3 weeks ago, a month ago, thrown $50 down on NL MVP. I think there's an outside shot
Yeah.
at it, right? And just as somebody that like would have had ridiculous odds to be that, but I do think in over the last couple of weeks, he's really starting to show that potential again. He's only 30, right? People are treating him like he's over. And I just don't think that's the case. And the fact that he's running out triples today suggests that, he's healthy.
Definitely. Now, somebody who I think locked and loaded people would have been all over for NL MVP prior to the injury was your boy Tatis. But since he's been down, CJ Abrams was able to start the year with the Friars. However, in 55 at bats, he proved he is not at all ready. A 182 average. What did he have? 543 OPS, 4 walks, 14 Ks, which is really genuinely not at all bad from that standpoint. However, only 1 dinger, 1 stolen base to come from it. And now he's back, and I'm hoping we don't see him back until September, and that he has been able to have a full rest of season at AAA and just really got his confidence back. He's getting play every day. And that was one of the issues with San Diego. They tried to put him out every day, but he was so overmatched. He was just unable to help the major league team. And I mean, San Diego knows as well as anybody else, you need to win in April. And to your point, Ty, they're still getting it done when you looked at that record. However, they're not getting it done with a guy like Abrams. So they've now sent him back, which is good. It's the right thing to do. They made a bunch of moves. One of the guys we're going to talk about when we talk about the minor leaguers. But, I think it's a good thing. It's unfortunate, just like Torkelson, that he was brought up in the first place. But when we get pissed about players' suppression, we have to understand that this is going to happen to players that are brought up.
Yeah, and I think one of the points I just want to touch on really quickly here is this is a guy everybody wanted to be ready. Bobby Witt's kind of one of those guys. At the end of the day, some of these guys just aren't ready. And I think the danger with Abrams is, very similar to what the start of JP Crawford's career looked like. Like, he's kind of a similar player. And, if you rush Abrams, if you don't give him that extra season to build the muscle and add the pop he needs to be an elite offensive guy, there's no arguments. I think he's ready defensively to be a pro baseball player. I do not believe on the offensive side he's ready, and I think he needs a full season at AAA to figure that out. So I don't think they should see him at all this year. And frankly, based on this cup of coffee, it suggests that San Diego would be very comfortable trading him. That's what I see out of that.
Hmm.
That's the underlying message I take from him being up as long as he was.
Okay, well, that we can put a pin in that for now. We'll come back to the San Diego in a moment. Akil Baddoo also sent down, you know, great year last year, whatever you want to call from a Rule 5 guy. But in this year, he was getting platooned. He's just not hitting. 50 at bats. He had a 140 average, 438 OPS, 1 home run, a stolen base, 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. But he wasn't Kane at a crazy rate. However, he's going back down to AAA. I'm hoping, because he didn't get to do it at all last year. He had to stay up because it was a Rule 5 pick. I'm hoping Detroit gets him into the summer and we start to see Baddoo creep up on the AAA kind of leaderboards and things like that. And then we can see him come back up. It would be to his benefit to just be an everyday player if it's at AAA or MLB. Now, if you're a redraft guy and you got all excited, that sucks. If you're a dynasty guy and he got sent down, I have him in dynasty. I'm okay with this. It's not what I want, of course, but he's already been on my bench for weeks. So I'm just going to leave him there. The problem is that you don't want to have a bench like I do in one league that's like Luis Garcia, Keston Hiura, Akil Baddoo, and that's your bench because now you can't afford injuries. So in that particular league, I do have a ton of pitching. If something happens to me, I'd have to trade a pitcher to get, that bench bat. I've also and Ty, this is kind of fun. In this league, I've also just not had a right fielder for 2 weeks. As soon as Chris Bryant got hurt, I haven't replaced him because my pitching is so good it doesn't matter. And it's a 30-team points league. I'm leading the league in points, but I haven't had a right fielder for 2 scoring periods. And I also don't care because I have guys that we're going to mention one in a moment. Tyler Wells with Baltimore, who I thought was going to be a closer. It turns out he's a starter now, and he's decent. He can be decent. But there are some of those things that kind of fell in my lap. Garrett Whitlock's another one, and we could talk about him on a future episode. But you just don't panic when a guy like Baddoo gets sent down because he can do it. So you just need to be patient to wait for him. Of course, in redraft, cut bait. Go find the next Taylor Ward. Don't wait around for Baddoo to come back on your bench unless it's the waiver wire is already empty. But it's going to be months before we see him again. I think, at least for any kind of significant playing time.
Yeah, and sophomore slump, shocking, right? I mean, surprise, right? It's not like we don't talk about that enough, right? It's a thing, people, right? If you're entering a season with a hyped up rookie heading into a second season as your guy, you're gonna lose. You need to know that. There's very few that have that pass through into their second season. So. Next on the list, Drew Hutchison, a friend of the show, basically here. We both,
okay.
We both have a certain spot.
We like him.
Drew Hutchison.
Yeah, there is that Andrew Hutchinson guy. That there we go, friend of the show. Yeah, there we go.
But anyway, I mean, he kind of a rough break. He's not been awful. He's not been great. He has 2 real balloon outings. The big thing for me, he's got 12 walks in 15 innings, right? And the Drew Hutchinson we've known over the years isn't a huge walk guy. He was known for his location. And so I don't know that anybody's going to take a shot here, but he certainly could make one of the team's shallow and pitching better out of the bullpen. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone picks him up. I'm trying to think of a team that has isolated pitching, one really good guy and nobody else, Oakland maybe would be a good landing spot for a Hutchinson to just go eat some innings. I think that could be interesting. That way Puck can get into the rotation where he belongs. And we can see some of that. So I think that's
essentially, Ty. That's essentially why Hutchinson was DFA'd, was because Detroit needed to cycle in a different type of arm because he was getting hit around too much. And like you said, he was walking a lot of guys. 15 Ks in 15 2/3 innings, 4.60 ERA. Not terrible, but like you said, 2 blow-ups, and those were both in the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, he was serviceable. I mean, I picked him up in a 30-team 8x8, and I just threw him in. And it until the last 2 weeks, I should say the last 5 days, I was like, oh, that was pretty good pickup for 50 cents of my money. But again, I need to know where he lands. But either way, he's on my bench now, and I'm looking for that next one. Right? Who's the next guy who essentially doesn't hurt you? Right? He's going to be a 2-3 inning guy. He's not gonna screw you over. Who's the next guy? Because there will be 25 Drew Hutchinsons this year. and there's probably already 5 of them that are moving around right now. You need to go find the guy. Seattle always has one, so just figure out who the heck that is with Seattle.
Marco Gonzalez.
No, Marco Gonzalez is a starting pitcher. Now, I'm not going to say Marco Gonzalez is some kind of like elite starting pitcher. That's not what I'm going for here. But I'm very quickly checking because I just picked up the Seattle guy. As soon as I said it, I'm like, oh, wait, I picked the Seattle guy.
So
Murphy.
Just really quick while you're looking it up, I'm AJ
Penn
Puck.
Murphy. That's it. That's all I got to say. Penn Murphy.
Isn't that the guy from the internet that hits bombs in his softball field by himself?
No, he's an SPRP, PENN, like the university. Murphy, MURFEE, in 8 2/3 innings, 11 Ks, only 1 walk, 0 ERA, and a decimal 3.46 whip. So,
Kent Murphy is 100% an internet guy. Look it up.
Penn
baseball.
Murphy?
Kent.
Oh, Kent. Oh, yeah, that's the.
What'd you say?
He's a Dingers guy.
Yeah, what did you say? Oh, okay.
Murphy.
Those are not the same.
No,
but okay. But I do want
he's
to touch on
Aaron Hernandez gone forever guy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is that guy. Yeah. But AJ Puck, really quick, just because we may not get a chance to note this in the future. ERA. Bingo note. 0.69. Nice.
Ooh,
so I had to go there. Sorry, it needed to be said. And I will leave the AJ Puck discussion for another day. But next on the list, Robinson Cano DFA'd. Shocking? No, not really. He's been average at best. He is trying to find a Albert Pujols style gig somewhere. That's what.
Not with the Yankees.
No, he's definitely not going to be. You know what though? Like he might be able to hit home runs there. To be fair.
Well, they did take Greg Bird back, so it's possible he could go to. Is it Scranton that they're playing? I saw. Yeah, it's Scranton, right? So yeah, he could go to Scranton to play some AAA ball. I can't imagine he'd actually do that. But
as much as this is crazy, like I would love for him to be a depth left-handed bat on the Jays bench. I think but I do think there's room for a left-handed bat. Like
there's room for a left-handed bat, but not a 195 hitter.
For $500K, are you not interested in Robinson Cano? Like, because that's what you're paying him, right?
Well,
you're getting the Pablo Sandoval contract, though.
Well, yeah, you're right. I just don't want Cano taking a roster spot today. I want Cano to go and show me he can smack balls at AAA, and that missing the year of pro ball.
Sure, minor league spot. Right? I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good with a minor league spot if that's what it is. But like, there's only a couple of teams that I think would even consider Cano, and Toronto has to be one of them. There's a hint. I'm trying to think of who else would even be in that conversation because I don't know of any.
Off the top of my head, I've got no idea because I didn't know you cared. I just put him on here because I thought it was end of an era. Yeah, you obviously you roster him in at least 4 leagues.
I do. No, just one. Yeah, but he is my starting second baseman in that league, so I really need him to be on the team.
Yikes. Also, a starting baseman that I have in several leagues who has been very disappointing this year hit the IL, and that is Nick Madrigal. He has just been terrible so far. So the IL stint is almost like welcome because I can get him off my starting lineup, or because it's just like he's gonna. Yeah, thank you. He's going to hit 400. Well, I shouldn't say that. I thought there was going to be a streak where he was just going to hit 400 for the next 10 or 15 days, and it never came. And he's hitting low 200s right now. That's not why you have Nick Madrigal. You have Nick Madrigal because you have guys who hit 40 bombs and hit low 200s. Nick Madrigal's there for his 2 to 3 home runs and his 300 plus average. So this has been very rough. I am looking forward to the reset. Hopefully they give him a minor league stint as well to just smack the ball around in AAA. I'm sure once you hit the IL, I forget if it's like 20 days. Like you got a lot of play when a guy hits the IL if you want to do a rehab assignment. I don't know how any of that kind of crap works, but I know for sure Madrigal will have options, so they could always just option him if they needed to. But
buy low, right? Like we're buying low here.
I absolutely would. Yes, like this is a great time to get a guy with a very like a plus hit tool to get him, and don't think that you are getting him today to start him the minute he's back. This has now become a project. You need to see that he can hit. But
so can I trade you Robinson Cano for Madrigal in that league? Can I do that?
I don't have him. I think the league you're thinking of is the Dynasty League. I don't have him in that league.
My team is in rebuild mode for everyone that is listening, and my minor league system is stacked.
It's that second base
cannot
position he's
wait.
trying to solidify right
That's
now.
correct. Yes. I need somebody with a pulse. Who are you? Come to me.
Yeah. So guys who need a new organization, I want to hear from some of the listeners at Dingers Pod, hit tie up at Turney Boss or myself at Robbie Baseball 1. Who do you think needs to be moved from their current organization to a new one? We were trying to think of guys that need a new organization, and tonight we kind of came up with a blank. We do have lots to talk about as far as potential movers, but who are you rostering right now that you're like, my God, break them out of this? Like, somebody needs to do this. Whose manager is screwing over your guy? On our list, just for confirmation, Keston Hiura with Milwaukee, Bobby Bradley with Cleveland, Kevin Biggio with Toronto, Garrett Hampson with Colorado, and Jose Siri with Houston. And the last time we did this, I had Jose Siri with Houston ? And now he's just on the list because I think he just needs to go somewhere to play, not somewhere to bench bat, and give him 200 at bats. If he sucks, he sucks. But
I mean,
I need to see it.
Frankie Montas needs a new team. Luis Castillo needs a new
For
team.
different reasons.
Yeah.
Different reasons.
No,
but sure, if those are your guys,
reasons.
hit us up and let us know. I say, yeah, I think that's fair, Ty. I've got some questions for you here, Ty. Are you ready for do you want to acquire any of these players for the rest of the season? So your dynasty leagues, your keeper leagues, heck, your redraft leagues with trades. What is a Chad Kuhl Colorado starting pitcher, and do you want any of him?
0.
Okay. Taylor Walls with Tampa Bay, not doing it with the average, but he does have multi-position eligibility and could steal upwards of 20 plus bags.
I'd rather invest a little more in a guy like Luis Urias. That I wouldn't aim it for.
So you get a little better overall player. All right. Sheldon Noyce with Oakland. I hope I'm saying that right. Is it Nurse?
Nice.
Anyway, with Oakland second base, he is their third baseman, second base eligible also. Off to a hot start. Kevin Smith not off to a hot start, and he had an IL stint. What are you thinking? Would you be picking him up if you needed him?
I wouldn't. Sir. No, not unless it's in that league where I'm starting Robinson Cano, and that's where
that would be the one.
That spot I will acquire him. But elsewhere, I'm staying away only because of where he's at right now. Like, if I just need a warm body, like I was talking about before, I'm not gonna stay away here. But at the same time, I'm not gonna pay the price that an owner would ask of him right now because it's not sustainable for him. We've seen it over a couple other stints in baseball and Major League Baseball. I just don't expect him to maintain it this time. And if he does, cool, I'm wrong. But in terms of limiting my risk, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, it's a long season, and his start has been great, and that's a good thing. Now, here is an absolute slow burn, but a Dinger's classic. Randall Grichuk, Ty, 89 at bats. He's got 12 runs, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs, a stolen base, 4 walks to 27 strikeouts. 281 average, however, and a 777 OPS. Now he has slumped over the last week, only 2 hits. One of them, of course, a dinger. 10 strikeouts in the last 20 at bats for Grichuk. Are you interested?
Always. I'm always interested in Grichuk. I mean, listen, the only thing you have to know about Grichuk, and this is the most important thing about being a Grichuk owner, is you need to know when to bench him, right? When he's cold, he's cold. When he's hot, he's hot. Right? It's not as if, like, if he hit 2 home runs the day before, you start him for the next 3 weeks. That's just what Randall Grichuk is. If he struck out 4 times in one game, you sit him for the next 3 weeks. It is that simple with Grichuk. He's not a guy you build your team around, but he is a guy that can win you a championship, right? If he gets hot in September, he might win you a championship. He's that kind of guy. So it's a risk for sure. But, most people that own Grichuk don't have him that high. So, that's what you have to kind of measure is he going to be hot? So first thing I'm doing with Grichuk, honestly, Robbie, I want to see what his September matchups are. I want to see if he's up against good pitching down the stretch. That's what
it'll be NL West. It'll be
well, not necessarily though. They've gotten creative with the schedules over the last couple of years. They haven't had it stacked in division as much as they've had in the past. So there is some room. Like, he could find himself against NL Central, which, as long as he's not stacked up against 2 or 3 series in Milwaukee, I'm good. With that NL Central
I wouldn't mind taking on Brandon Woodruff right now. That's not the worst, but here's an NL West guy that I'm very curious about. Merrill Kelly, prior to today's start, which was 5 innings, he had 4 strikeouts, but he gave up 4 runs. His for the year prior to today, like I said, 37 innings, 3-1 record, 34 Ks, a 1.22 ERA. Is that a guy? And sorry, 4 quality starts was the big one. I'm so Canadian. I've said sorry so much. I'm sorry for saying sorry. Merrill Kelly, your thoughts? You want him?
I do. And this is one of those guys that underlying has value in most dynasty formats. So if you look at him on a season long stat line, and that's your analysis of what Merrill Kelly is, you're going to be disappointed with that. And you're going to be disappointed when you watch him roll out 7 straight quality starts. And that's what Merrill Kelly does. He just comes out and he just drives quality starts. So is he going to go and win a Cy Young with a 2.11 ERA? Absolutely not. No chance. That's not what Merrill Kelly is. Is he going to give you 6 innings almost every outing and probably give up 2, 3, maybe 4 runs? Yeah, that's what you're going to get. And every pitcher has a couple bad games throughout the year. I like Merrill Kelly, and I just accept the couple blow-up starts that he gives you. Deep formats, he's a must-own. Shallow formats, he's a great waiver wire guy to play with. But I like Merrill Kelly. If that team can give him some wins like they have so far, his value goes up. Like he was 7-11 last year on a really bad Arizona team. And his ERA was very reasonable, 4.44. This year at 1.2 so far. And that's it's interesting. He's a guy for sure that I'm interested in owning. And frankly, depending on how Arizona's season plays out, this is a guy that could leave Arizona, right?
I thought, Ty, and I'm not sure. Sorry to cut you off. I thought he signed an extension or a multi-year deal.
He is signed through 2024.
Okay, so he does have the extra year signed. So that, I guess you could take that both ways, right? That's a better return for Arizona if this is not their window for him. But at the same time, a team like the Cubs locked up a few dudes, Stroman-esque, and Kelly might fall under that same category as innings eaters.
I look at the Yankees as a possible target. They have like a Peraza, Florial type combination of a package that could easily land a Merrill Kelly. And they would need the depth of pitching. 2-year deal, kind of the deal Cashman likes to make in New York. I could see that being a very logical landing spot. Now, I think the obvious thing for the Yankees is Frankie Montas. It's going to happen. It just is what it is. I think that's a foregone conclusion in my brain. But Merrill Kelly is certainly a good consolation prize for the Yankees.
All right. Manuel Margot, Ty. This is a fun little addition to the note here. Up until last week, he was rostered in 7% of Yahoo leagues. He went up 49% over the last week. However, Manuel Margot for the season, 337 average, 900 OPS, 3 dingers, 5 stolen bases, 8 walks, 12 Ks. And that is in 86 at bats. Really good. Manuel Margot, 22nd overall in 8x8. But he's now got a hamstring issue. Not going to be back till late this week at the earliest, as far as he has told reporters. I think we have already seen the best of Manuel Margot in our home league. I think it's today that he was picked up, because prior to when was it? Sunday night. I looked. Yeah, he was picked up today. Jake McGee was dropped by whoever trolling for Trout is. I'm not sure who that is in our home league, but anyway, he was just picked up. Do you have any interest in Margot? I personally have none when I hear hamstring issues, and this is a speed guy.
Yes, I would 100% agree. And a really interesting fact, this is an interesting one for me. He's 304 batting average with an 848 OPS in career. This is his career number when his team wins. Okay. He's 211 with a 573 OPS in losses, where he has significantly more at-bats and plate appearances. Not significant, just more. Interesting. Right. And like, it's a weird thing. Like, you and I know this as a weird thing because we watched Vernon Wells absolutely rake when the Jays were losing 8-3,
right,
and be nowhere to be found when they were in a 2-1 lead.
He took the 8-3 game and made it 8-6.
Correct.
And then in the 2-1 game, he's 0-4 with 3 Ks.
Exactly. So, Margot seems to be the opposite, right? So, it's an interesting stat. So this is a guy, I will say, Robbie, like I'm out right now because I don't want him for the middle of the season with a hamstring injury. but I'm
Right.
interested about him down the stretch because when
Okay.
Tampa's got big games in September, that can win you a championship, right? And so that's why I bring that stat up because I think it's super valuable. And I think it's one that no one ever looks at or ever talks about.
All right, next one up is Brandon Drury, who was with Colorado last year and was playing well, then got hurt. Sorry, that was Chris Owens. I take it back. That was Chris Owens. Brandon Drury moved around a little bit last year, but the overall stat line for him was not too bad. 274 average, 783 OPS, but it was only 84 at bats. He's
supposed
now
to spit out my bourbon when he said Brandon Drury was good.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, wait a second. No, that wasn't it. Because as soon as I looked, I'm like, no, that was the other former Arizona guy. But Brandon Drury now, second base, third base, outfield eligible, playing with the Reds, who are absolute dog poop. And in 79 at bats this year, he's got in 84 at bats this year, which ties him from last year. The exact same average, but the OPS is at 911, and that's 2 more dingers for him. I mean, for a multi-position eligible guy, you can't say no, you don't want him. But would you consider Brandon Drury as somebody that will help you rest of season?
No, I can't
No,
watch
I
Brandon
agree.
Drury. He was in Toronto. I watched too much of him. It's painful. You know what will
Yes.
blow your mind though, Robbie? Career batting average of 250.
Right.
Which
It
is
was a
hard to
different era.
believe.
That's all. That's what you can say about that.
Yeah, hard to believe. I mean, I don't have a real issue with the guy. Like I see the upside, the power, the oppo gap power is impressive with Brandon Drury. So like in Cincinnati, there's an opportunity for him to, sneak in 25 home runs. Like that, very realistic. If he gets the at bats, like that could be a thing. So worth noting. I don't have faith that that's the reality. I'm just saying it could happen, and if it's going to happen in a place, Cincinnati is one of those places it could happen.
A player that I have faith in, Ty, and I did in the offseason, but it was so misdirected, was Tyler Wells. When you have auction leagues, everyone, and you see players start to go for crazy sums of money, it is very dangerous to throw out someone who you want to sneak by everybody at like the auction minimum. And I was able to do that in one league with Tyler Wells, where I got him for the league minimum. And I only gave him a 2-year deal this year and next because I wasn't quite sure. But I thought from looking at everything and trying to find anything that was written. And again, I listened to podcasts of reporters for the pro sport teams. Like I try to find Baltimore podcasts about the Orioles from guys who actually get paid to write about the Orioles. I'm interested in those kind of things. And Tyler Wells looked to be in a great position to be a save guy for Baltimore this year and a save hold guy as it's kind of like your backup thing. Well, he's now starting for Baltimore and he had his first quality start this week. But Ty, since the beginning of the season when he had, I think 2 bad outings, 2 outings where there were runners scored, his average in 22 and a third innings, ERA. His ERA is 2.42. He's got 15 Ks, a 1-1 record. Now he had his first quality start this past weekend. I think it was Sunday, 3 Ks in that, but he's now a starter for Baltimore. And I think this is his 3rd or 4th straight start. So I'm on board with Tyler Wells long-term here. I don't think he's somebody who gets pushed in and out. He is a Rule 5 guy as well, who was a RP all last year, 57 innings. He had 65 Ks in those. So I think his K per 9 is going to go up as the year goes on, which is obviously not the norm. But I think Tyler Wells is going to be the exception to the rule in this. And I'm going around collecting them where I can. For anyone on Yahoo right now, he is only 4% owned. And I bet you a bunch of those guys picked him up because they thought he was going to have a 2-start week last week. And they're carrying it over because that Sunday start was decent. I think that is correct. Or no, it was Monday. This is the 2-start week. So that's why he's there. Just have a look, everyone. Have a look. Baltimore's not great and shiny and awesome, but there's some potential within that lineup outside of Grayson Rodriguez, who we're really waiting on. And the next guy up, Ty, Kyle Bradish. Do you know much about Bradish?
Sorry, real quick on Wells. I just want to touch on.
Yeah.
My concern is the schedule he's had so far. Tampa to open, gave up 4 runs. Yankees second start pitched pretty good, but it was April 16th. And then Oakland pitched 2 in the 3rd.
Yep.
Nothing really notable, but then 5 okay innings against the Yankees. So he's the last 2 starts where he probably has started in your mind to establish himself. And I kind of want to ask your thought, like Minnesota, KC back to back. Minnesota was without Buxton at that point, I think, on May 2nd. The reality is, are you worried about the soft schedule pumping a Tyler Wells up? Because I am, and that's why I'm asking. Because this is more of a your guy than a my guy, so I'm curious just for the listeners what you think.
He's not an everyday starter for me. He's somebody that you put in, though. So if it's a points league and it's a 2-start week, yeah, you throw him in, because at the end of the week, I would say your worst case scenario would be he has a good start, which could be 16 points. Then he has a bad start, which could be -5. And that's a real bad start, because that typically, depending on your points leagues, you're going to get -5 for a loss. Sometimes it's -7, depending, how they do it. But to me, Tyler Wells is a great guy to have as a spot starter on your 15 team and larger formats. And he's going to be out there. Anybody who had him originally did not think or care much about him as soon as he started to get stretched out to start and wasn't doing very well at it. So the fact that he was able to go through 2 MLB lineups, albeit not elite in Minnesota and KC, it's a good thing, because you got to slow start these guys. It's no different than saying Tristan McKenzie, Ranger Suarez, a lot of the other guys who I believe in. You've got to give them rope. You've got to let them have a slow start. You got to let them blow up. And Tyler Wells is going to be the type of guy, you could treat him like a Colorado starter if you want. If you like where he's pitching, if you think the lineup is going to be okay, and you actually put in that work, then Tyler Wells is going to be an asset on your fantasy team. If you just blindly throw guys in because they're on your team and like you see the green check mark, you're not going to be happy with Tyler Wells.
Yeah. So in terms of Tyler Wells, like, are you concerned if Grayson Rodriguez comes up that Tyler Wells is the guy that gets bumped from that rotation at all?
No, I think that's Kyle Bradish.
Okay, cool.
And
that
that's
was where
the
I
next
wanted to lead that.
Yeah, that's the next guy to talk about is Bradish, who's good. And I mean, there are other guys that Baltimore can move around and do whatever. Wells could certainly be bumped from the rotation if the performance dictates it, but I think he's going to be bumped to the bullpen, not to AAA, which, like, think about your Brady Singers of the world. You could have drafted Brady Singer. If you're one of those dudes who plays in 15 redrafts and 5 dynasties, you're crazy. But I was you once. And I can say that when you get so much of one player because you get so excited, and then something terrible happens, like it has for Brady Singer. You thought for sure he was going to start, and 25 plus starts. Turns out, oh, he's not starting. He's out of the bullpen, and then you watch all of his teammates get blown up, and then he gets sent to AAA because they're like, oh, we're going to stretch him out, right? We're going to stretch him out and bring him back. Well, the time for him to come back was tonight, but it didn't happen. So what in the hell is KC doing? Now you're worried. Well, there's a guy like Tyler Wells that's out there who I think can help you out in this scenario. Kyle Bradish, who is the next guy up, is only 3% rostered in Yahoo. He's already got 17 innings in. Last week was a 2-start week for him, 11 innings, 14 Ks, Ty. That's what I'm interested in with him, and a win. Quality start as well. Bradish is exactly like Tyler Wells, but I think more people are going to care about Bradish because he had some decent 2021 had a decent 2021 line to look at. But that's just another, I mean, I apologize for calling players these. We're dumpster diving at this point in time. We're trying to find something before everyone else starts to pick up on it. This is one of the Dingers track record things that we do, right? We're going to be ahead on it. And sometimes you got to get them and put them on your bench. And then you just pick and choose where you're going to go with them. Well, Drew Rasmussen was our guy last year.
Yeah, and I'm sure we have some redraft listeners out there, right, that are listening as we go along here, or playing multiple leagues, both on Dynasty and the redraft side. Like, there's things that you have to be careful of. Like, we're talking about a guy like Bradish and Wells. They're mainly designed to help long-term teams, deeper leagues, that sort of thing. If you're in a 12-teamer, like, you should own neither of those guys, right? So, that's the important piece. Like, we generally talk to 20-plus long-term Dynasty format. That's what we're talking about. But that doesn't mean you can't see some of these breakouts. Like, if Bradish continues to be what he's been in the very short window, strikeout potential could make him interesting. And one thing I like for Bradish, could be a very interesting reliever if you're in a saves holds league. That, I think, is the floor for Bradish with the strikeouts.
Yeah, Baltimore hasn't played Toronto yet. Baltimore will still have a lot of tough schedule ahead, like you said, Ty, the soft schedule. But at the same time, Baltimore's offense has not been elite. And we know that there's more. Cedric Mullins and others, Ryan Mountcastle starting to come into form and things like that. So, but as those guys are coming into form on teams who will not be trying to be competitive, there are lots of teams who are going to be competitive. And we're going to start to talk about what could happen at the minor league level as far as guys that you roster today in Dynasty that could be on the move. So, Ty, this is kind of your baby here. So I'm just going to tee you up, and then I'm going to let you go play the front nine with the first team, and then the back nine with the second team. And then we can just discuss some of the individual prospects after. But you have written in here all Blue Jay minor league players. Do tell.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite trade methods, Robbie. You've played enough leagues with me to know this. Like, I love to go trade for guys that are going to be traded later in the year, right? So this is a pattern that I've had for a long time. A guy like Montas, Luis Castillo, I own in dynasty formats because I'm waiting for them to go to championship teams. Like, it's going to happen. They're going to be in contenders, and they're going to have significantly better fantasy ROI when they get there. So taking this to your minor league level, you have to start to analyze what these guys could be. So you're looking for guys that are either the blue chip prospect that, is going to go from, a team that's in contention to get that elite guy, right? And there's certain teams that are chasing elite guys to make their team complete. There's other teams that are looking for bridge pieces. So a team like Toronto, we have a solid rotation there. So they're going to be looking to trade. Well, it's been pretty good, right? The pitching has not been the issue, right? Like, you didn't expect Jose Barrios to be the SP5, but that's the reality of what it's been so far. So, they're looking for probably some bullpen help and a depth bench bat that can give them some assets off the bench, maybe a little defense. But when you start to talk about who they're going to trade, you're not going to trade Marino. If they were going to trade Marino, it would have been for Jose Ramirez. They're not going to trade Orvelis Martinez because this kid might play third base at some point this season. The way Chapman's going, you might see Orvelis Martinez in September over Chapman. That's a possibility. But you're going to be looking for mid-tier guys. So Biggio is a guy that, certainly could be on the move. I think that's a very realistic possibility with what Espinal has been so far. But then we start to look at what's in the minor league system. CG Van Eyck is a guy with I can't remember if it's a curveball or a slider, but a very good hook regardless. To me, he profiles as a really good right-handed reliever. I don't see him as a starter. In my opinion, that's why I think he's a trade asset here. I think you can go get him for nothing because he is nothing almost to Toronto at this point. I think he's nothing in a lot of dynasty formats. Sem Roberts is a Dutch pitcher.
Just so everyone knows, if you're looking, Sem, SEM, ROBBERSE. So it's like Sem Roberts, something like that.
Can we just call him the rudder? Is that instead of trying to pronounce Roberts?
Are you bringing in boat terms? Because but
he could be the Dutch. He could be the Dutch rudder. Right? This nickname has some legs. So anyway, Sem Roberts is a starting pitcher right now that has some upside. I don't know that he's going to break the ceiling of SP3 ever. I could see him as an SP4, SP5 somewhere along the way. But a guy that, Robbie, you brought up 2 years ago, when he was down in Lansing as a guy that had come out of nowhere to be a reasonable prospect here. And he's climbed up the charts, right? So he's now, is he in the top 10? I don't know that off the top of my head, but
I don't know myself, but I mean, we always like to joke about MLB.com's prospects, the top 30, the top 100, it's all based on something. We just don't know what, but it certainly isn't reliable. And when you get into San Diego, Ty, I know you've got some examples set up for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But Sem was like a guy who they went to a showcase to look at his teammate and found him, which we've heard it before, right? We've heard it with other players across baseball. Every team's probably got 3 of those guys in the system that they like. And that's Sem Roberts, whatever his name is. But
and just as a note, because I'm sure there's a bunch of people going, who the hell is this Sem guy right now? He's got 4 starts so far, 22 innings. He's pitched to a 2.05 ERA, Robbie, and a sub 9.09 whip. And the K ratio is reasonable, 21 and 22 innings. Still in short season in Vancouver, but the rest of this list are guys that I really like, Robbie, but I don't see them having a future in Toronto. So I think they're very, very good targets. Like Otto Lopez is a guy that has just fallen between the cracks for years in the depth chart of the prospect system because he was been behind Bichette and Vladdy, and nobody cared about anybody but those two for a while, right? But Otto Lopez is not a bad player. Samad Taylor is the guy that if there was a Rule 5 draft this year would have been selected in the Rule 5 draft. Fact. He probably maybe even would have been the first overall. This is a guy that is probably going to end up a team. Spencer Horwitz got a bunch of press in the fall last year in the AFL because he hit, and that's what he does.
Including Dinger's press.
Correct.
Dinger's podcast press.
That's right.
We
He
like
hits. He just goes out and he hits. He needs some power, and he's obviously buried on the depth chart in Toronto. So again, another guy that has upside. Miguel Geraldo is probably one of my favorite diamond in the rough guys. He's in this window right now, Robbie, where he went from being a J2 guy that had some promise to he's in the swing change, add power to his game phase. And this is where I love to buy guys. And Miguel Geraldo hits the ball very, very hard. So that's a guy I want to target if I don't own him and pay nothing for him right now because he is in that window to acquire him. And then the last guy on this list has just skyrocketed up every single board everywhere. Is Ricky Tiedemann, who was I'm trying to remember where he came from, Robbie. Do you have the
Golden West JC, baby? Out of California. He was the 3rd round pick, 91st overall in last year's draft, and he is playing in the Florida State League. Yes, yep. Florida State
California League. Penal League.
Yeah. But the only thing I have for him, Ty, on this that I think is great is Andrew Painter, who was the Phillies high school project drafted guy, has 40 Ks in the Florida State League, and Tiedemann is 1 behind him. Difference being that Tiedemann is a lefty, shouldn't say difference. Tiedemann is a lefty, 6'4", and he's only 19. So
and apparently he is built like a brick shithouse. And I know
6'4", 220. Yeah.
That but apparently the words that were used in spring is he's built like a god or something like that. So we know a certain shrimp boat captain that might be into that. But
very big on the bodies.
So moving to the San Diego system, very similar to Toronto in terms of what their needs are going to be. They have almost too many starting pitchers, none of which are super elite. So maybe they look for an ace, but I just don't know how they're going to pull that trade off. But if you look inside their system, guys that are probably up for trade, Adrian Morahan is a guy that's just coming off Tommy John lefty, high promise J2 guy. I'm a Morahan guy. He had a brief cup of coffee where he was starting to break in, and then he had the injury. We still should see Morahan this year, whether it's in San Diego or elsewhere, that's yet to be seen. But I do think we will see him in the major leagues at some point this season. Victor Acosta is the J2 shortstop that is a long ways away, 16-year-old, might be 17 at this point, but is a guy that San Diego has shown in the past willingness to part with guys at a very early age. Was it Trey Turner that they sent right after drafting him?
Yeah, it was. Yes. It was like he was like a to be named later type guy.
Correct. Yeah. So Acosta could fit into some of that. Like he's not going to fit that timeline, obviously, but in terms of San Diego's in win now mode, period. Right. That just is what it is. Luis Campusano, is he going to be a guy? I don't know. Like this could fit change of scenery, Robbie, honestly, where we're at with him. Like he's a catcher. He's a guy. Yeah. He's a guy that was supposed to be a guy already and hasn't quite reached that. So I can see him being exited because, they're in win now mode. They have nothing left to work on. And I just want to touch really quickly on the MLB pipeline conversation you added earlier. Campusano entering the season was ranked ahead of Mackenzie Gore. So that it tells you what the upside here is, but it also tells you why you shouldn't follow rankings that are updated regularly.
Well, also MLB pipeline is typically done without stating who has put their input to it. They say things like scouts. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like one dude who heads it up. I know like Prospect One, the Welsh who's been on this podcast, talked to us about prospects and things. He gets some guys from like USA Today who come, Steve Gardner goes on his podcast. He gets all the guys who go on, and we were talking to him about that. And it was just the fact that like, if you don't know the source, why are you trusting? It's no different than when we complain about people who podcast and we have no idea if they're any good at fantasy baseball. Why are we listening if we don't know if they're good or not, or if they don't at least have opinions that align with our thought process? And that's when you start to like kind of like look at the other content, look at what else they're doing, and then realize like, oh, like I can just figure out this information without this person helping me or things like that. And Luis Campusano, 3 years ago, I think it was, Ty, was right on the cusp, like top 100 MLB prospect. And I remember in 2018, I drafted him in a league. And then before our rookie draft, I had to drop a few players so that I could use all 10 of my picks. And I dropped him, and he was a top 40 pick that next year in that draft because he was on MLB's list high up. And I'm like, but he's a catcher. And that was really when I was developing my whole, the catchers just can't help you as much early in a draft. You're much better off to try to steal the Jose Herreras later on and cross your fingers.
100%. Yep. I agree. Just a real quick live update, Robbie. Zach Logue twirled a gem tonight. 7 innings, 6 strikeouts against the lowly Tigers. But still, lefty was notable in the Chapman trade coming from Toronto. Moving ahead here, though, Ryan Weathers is a guy that to me fits the type of trade that San Diego might make. This is a depth starter for San Diego, but could be a reasonable SP5 for a lot of teams. So I think that's a guy that could be involved. James Wood is a huge power bat that's in the minor league system for San Diego, a high school bat, believe big old lefty, kind of like left-handed Aaron Judge. A little bit of room for improvement on the swing, but the power is very, very real. So if I'm San Diego, you've got Robert Hassel. You've got a good infield depth for a couple years here. You've got room to move an outfield bat and free up some possible free agency in San Diego. So I'd like James Wood as a guy that could be included in a trade. And the last guy that I think is the most probably obvious guy here, Robbie, is Esterio Ruiz, who we've talked about, is a guy that certainly can make almost every team better. And frankly, this is the kind of guy that you could see, in the Toronto trade, right? That's the kind of guy that could end up making them better by the end of the season. Just a depth bat kind of trade that Ross Atkins likes to make that could potentially fit. If San Diego does in fact need a catcher, guess what? We got a guy, right? That's the reality. So there could be a trade there. Your boy Austin Nola has been good enough so far, but can he maintain that? So that's the San Diego side. Anything you want to add on that before I get into my
who was the pitcher you said was having a night?
Zach Logue.
What team are you?
He's in Oakland. He went from Toronto to Oakland in the Matt Chapman trade. He was a AAA guy that was a sneaky guy in the Toronto system in the last couple of years. Lefty. Thank you. Okay. Just sneaky good.
LOGUE, just so everyone knows.
That is
you said it, and I'm like, why do I know this? And I'm looking, honestly, I'm just scrolling the games, and I'm looking at the games, and I'm like, you said Chapman trade. I'm like, Chapman was traded to the Cubs. I'm not even thinking Matt Chapman. I'm just because I'm thinking about what you're talking about with San Diego here, and it just threw me. But anyway, it did lead me to check on the fact that the Yankees beat the Jays tonight, and Clay Holmes, everybody, 7th hold of the season, 1 2/3 innings tonight, only 1 K. However, he does have a decimal 5.5 ERA. Oh my gosh, we're talking bingo. Talking bingo scores. He is one of the guys who I was right about, and that's exciting. But anyway, I agree. I think if you're a good team like San Diego, you're happy to shed from your talent. And if you have a guy like Esterio Ruiz in particular, who's repeating AA, doing things well, move him. If someone's willing to take him on, and you talked before about this, like the slow burn players, right? Not everybody is just going to fire at all levels. And sometimes when they do, and they keep getting moved up and excelling, that's a great thing. But there's only one Juan Soto in Major League Baseball who was able to do that. And sometimes you need that Aaron Judge repeat it, struggle, repeat, and then it's on the repeat that they need to be better. But those are just 2 teams. We talked about maybe 6 teams that we thought we could go through, but we got a lot of season left to talk about some of those guys. So let's discuss a few of the potential guys who we think could be moving on some of the better teams. And Moises Gomez is one that I know has been a hot topic with some of our surf partners within what's it called? The World? No,
the
Earth League. So Moises Gomez has been a hot topic. But tell us, you've got the inside scoop here for us, Ty. What's the deal?
Yeah. For those of you that don't know who Moises Gomez is, which is going to be a lot of you, he has 14 home runs at AA Springfield in the St. Louis system. This is a guy that had a lot of promise in the Tampa Bay system. So there was nothing overly surprising about a breakout because he was supposed to be a guy that could do some of these things. And we saw moments of it throughout the minor leagues, right? So at high A in the Tampa Bay system, he had 19 home runs, 16 at low A, he had 19. So that's where people started to get super excited. And then there started to be some swing and miss enter the game. We saw 16 home runs. I don't know what happened when he went down to Venezuela, played in some fall ball, 381, 1054. He clearly has figured something out because he's hitting 379 with a 1339 OPS in double A right now in Springfield. This is a guy that I see as a trade asset in all leagues, especially dynasty leagues, because he's going to get traded. Like this is
What
a
is
guy.
his position, Ty? Just so
He's an
everybody knows.
outfielder. Yeah,
There
he's
you
an
go.
outfielder. Sorry. He's primarily probably a right fielder. They say center fielder on Baseball Reference, but if you've seen this human, he is not a center fielder. He is a damn boy, you thick. So he's not going to be rolling out center field anytime soon, unless we're going with the Lorenzen quarterback move where you put out your 300-pounder to play quarterback. He's not that big, but he's certainly not a center fielder. Anyway, point is, shout out to friend of the show and former Clubhouse friend, Robbie, as you know, Kimberly Bates. You can find her at Twitter at Kimberly Bates, exactly how you think that would be. She is the PR/digital strategy member of the Springfield team. So she sent me a couple notes last week where we were exchanging some notes about Moises Gomez. And the comment I asked, it was very simple. Like, are these fence scrapers or is he just absolutely destroying baseballs? And the answer was the outfielders are not moving when he hits baseballs. And so it is light tower power. Really quick note, Robbie, Jordan Walker's also there. And she sent me a shot. They were doing some MLB Network time with him while they were there. So she sent me a shot. Jordan Walker's 19, looks like he's going on 32. That kid's also destroying double A, and he's going to be ready and up sometime soon too. So just as a fun side note, but again, shout out, thanks Kimberly for the inside scoop. Make sure you head over, give her a follow, and get some inside stuff on the Springfield team.
So an absolute acquire is Moises Gomez with St. Louis.
I think so.
So we are, we're Jays fans. So we are Jays fans. We do not want the other four teams in the AL East to be any good. So when Boston wins the division, or did they win? Whatever they did last year, and then this year they suck, we were very happy. But we did know that this was something that was going to happen, was that the Yankees had this rich middle infield coming up. And when they re-signed DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres, should be better, we were like, what's going to happen? Anthony Volpe kind of came out of nowhere. Well, as far as I'm concerned, kind of came out of nowhere the last year, 18 months, because I had my eye on this next target who you think is primed to move. And I agree with you. And I added another guy by the same name, same first name anyway, who I also think could be on the move out of the Yankees organizations. Let's talk about the Oswaldos of the Yankees.
Yeah. I think Peraza is the prime target. And I think it's because the Yankees need they're ready to win. They need a second ace to be a World Series favorite, right? That's the reality. They have the assets to do it. Montez is the kind of guy that fits their traditional acquisition style. I think they're going to pay for it. And I think they could send, a similar package we talked about with Kelly, Peraza and Florial. I mean, there's an upside here because Montez is so good and going to be probably like far and away the best pitcher on the market come trade season. I think they could get more in that trade, Oakland. So I really believe this is a foregone conclusion. And I think Peraza fits depth issues that Oakland has in their middle infield. So I think it's an obvious one to me. Just that's a perfect fit. So that's why I have him there. I'm tunnel vision on Peraza to Oakland. I just think it makes too much sense.
Yeah, and like we talked about, Anthony Volpe. Do you know exactly how it's pronounced?
I just call him Volpe.
Volpe. Okay,
that's what I say.
He is above. He's kind of next guy up here. But then sliding over to like second base type guy is Oswaldo Cabrera with the Yankees, who had himself a good 2021. Again, when you are looking at the guys who are one step below, but also blocked above and not hyped, that's the Adam Aller, who the Athletics did get in one of their offseason trades, and he started the year, which he should not have. He started the year with Oakland because of injuries. I think had 2 starts or 3 starts, and then got sent down. And now he's going to, spend the summer getting himself ready to be an MLBer, hopefully come September or whenever the trade deadline, washes things out. But Oswaldo Cabrera is another guy that I would look at the Yankees. Not highly rostered in dynasty leagues. However, the stat line 2021 was good. Somebody to consider. So moving off of the Yankees, but staying in the AL East, painful. 2019 drafted, I think. Yep. Cole Wilcox.
Yeah. And I, if you remember, Robbie, I said this when Snell went to the Padres, that Cole Wilcox was the key to this deal, was the guy that was a throw-in from Tampa's perspective. I think he is the best player that is going to Tampa Bay, and that's saying a lot because you got Thundering Oak, among others, that came over in that trade.
That's Luis Patino for anyone new to the podcast.
But, I think Wilcox has the upside. A guy that went to Georgia with Hancock. He was the SB2 there in their rotation in college. There's a real arm here with some huge upside, and he's fallen between the cracks because of the injury. He had a really good start last season before he got hurt. We're not going to see him for another season, but he's just the kind of guy where you can get people not knowing anything about Cole Wilcox, looking that he has Tommy John and go, I probably could take this risk. Let's make that trade. So I'm targeting Wilcox anywhere I don't already own him. Robbie, you've probably seen me pick him off in a couple leagues already. I'm going to continue to do that where he's available because he's a guy and he's going to be relevant. Next on the list, also in Tampa, Vidal Brujan for me is just a buy low target at this point. I think there's going to be some regression on people's feelings about Brujan. He was a guy everyone was excited about because of the contact speed. The contact's going to be there. He's going to hit. He just needs time to play. And when guys like Taylor Wall is getting playing time ahead of him, that's an issue. But I do think the upside potential from Margot being hurt as Brujan could play center. And I think that's a super relevant handcuff if you're a Margot owner.
And 1 year ago, Ty, almost to the day, people were losing their minds. Why is Brujan not up? He is murdering AAA. He is ready. And then he got brought up and just wet the bed.
To his defense, though, he hasn't had a reasonable cup of coffee yet.
But he was amongst several rookies who did the exact same thing last year, right? Mm-hmm. He was not alone. Jared Kelenick's still doing it.
Right.
But what I was saying, just from the buy low perspective, I get you. But it was just that 1 year ago, everybody was like, Brujan was at his peak, right? Since then, he's just come down and down and down and down. To your point, buy low, absolutely now's the time. Because we know if you're a dynasty guy, it's not quick and dirty, right? You got to play the long game here.
So here's the catch. He's really not, from a statistical perspective, a buy low. He's hitting 300 with an 867 OPS and 6 stolen bases right now, right? So
where's he doing
not
it,
AAA, correct?
Right.
But the concern that people now have in their head is that he can't hit, he can't do these things. Well, guess what? He's hitting. He's doing these things. He just needs playing time at the major league level, and he hasn't had it yet. So Kiermaier, Margot are major hurdles, but this is a guy that, if Tampa's in contention, could be a guy. Tampa's deep. They have guys they can trade across their system, and Brujan could be that guy potentially. So just something to think about. Next on the list is Drew Waters. For me, is just a forgotten soldier. I just want to mention him because he's a guy that needs to find a new organization, a guy that has consistently been great in the minors. There's really not a spot for him in the pros right now. I just don't see him being an Atlanta Brave, very similar to Christian Pache. I just don't know that Atlanta's going to hang on, and we know that Anthopoulos doesn't care. He jettisons these sort of guys. So just a guy to note, right?
He seriously
doesn't
care.
Ethan Small's a guy we've talked.
Yeah,
for sure. Ethan Small's next on the list, lefty in Milwaukee. We've touched on him over the last couple of weeks, so I won't get into the details. But again, he's just reinforcing what we've talked about the last couple of weeks as a guy with huge value, and nobody's talking about him. No one is mentioning him because they know he's not going to come up in Milwaukee, right? So dynasty players, this is a great guy to target you get him before he has a path to major league time, because as soon as he gets traded to Pittsburgh again, or somewhere, the Cubbies or whatever, for whatever assets going back the other way, and he's an obvious starter in that scenario, he has less value now. Go get him now before he gets moved. That's the message there. Going the other way is Matt Brash, a guy that we'll touch on in the next episode as well, in terms of
former Seattle starting pitcher. Now he's back in AAA. Just so Yep. If you weren't familiar with the name because you've forgotten how excited it was in April, Matt Brash,
fellow Canadian, Kingston native, Matt Brash. I saw just as a really quick note on Brash. There was some notes out on the internet in terms of what the Brash brothers was going to be called in terms of the Matt Brash fan club, and I think it went way over people's head when I mentioned Brash Test Dummies, since Matt Brash was a Canadian. If for those Canadian listening, that's an obvious one to me, right? But I think at this stage now, where he's been sent back down and he basically is a Brash Test Dummy, it becomes even more applicable. So just as a note,
that worked against you, but also that worked.
I worked it in. But talking to Mets is the last couple guys in this group. Brett Beatty's a guy that I just don't believe the Mets will trade. I think there's an upside where they might be due to something stupid because of the Mets. Very possible. There's also a really strong chance that we might see Brett Beatty in the upper minors and potentially in the majors this year. Really outside shot, depending on about 100 different scenarios around third base in the Mets system. But a guy that could be relevant, Ronnie Mauricio is the guy for me that is the most logical target. Because the Mets they don't need him. They don't have any use for him. They don't need him at second or third, theoretically. The Cano DFA makes it interesting at the very least to say, well, maybe they are thinking about Mauricio at second base, maybe. But I think it's a more likely trade target for me that they could use him for. So those are the couple guys that I'm targeting. And the last guy on this list, Robbie, you added was Brett Carey, LA Angels starting pitcher 2021 draft. What do you got here?
Well, we'll talk about him in the next one, but because this episode is over an hour 20, I feel like we should just cut her off here and then do a minor league lineup episode separately, if you're cool with that.
I'm good.
All right. Then we'll talk about Brett Carey and a whole lineup of minor leaguers, which would essentially be the April to mid-May MVP lineup on a future episode. Probably the next episode you listen to.
Awesome. Great spot to leave it, though. Be sure to hit us up on the Twitterverse, right? At Robbie Baseball and at Tourney Boss, and of course at Dinger Spawn and at Robbie Baseball 1. Sorry, misspoke, Robbie.
I mean, how else will they find it? Robbie Baseball 1, like the number and where I usually am in the standings.
Yeah. Debatable. That's debatable, but that's a great spot to leave it.
Good.
But until next time, it's been Rob and Tyler here on